Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, put on your seatbelt. Put on your seatbelt. Because we're going to start recording in a second. Ready?
Yeah.
Wait for the music to come around. 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3. We're recording live.
Can I press stop?
Yes.
We've got Travis Bickle in the background.
Oh,
This is
what?
This is your nephew when he was a taxi driver in New York.
Let's show everybody what's going on here. We have a new gimmick here for the show. Here. And would you move out of the way for a second?
You can still see
You
it.
can still see it, and it says, well, look what he's wearing. It says, "Stay in yeshiva and stay off the crack." That's our new logo, and that you can buy the shirts. They what do they cost? Like $25 a piece, and proceeds go to us. I have no idea how to get you the shirts, so don't even ask.
So Justin says that your talk kept him up last night. Were you whispering sweet nothings in his ear?
we had to show you this. First of all, what's going on here? Well, would you move into the camera a little bit, maybe? Maybe that would be good. So make it the Rabs and Luke show, not just Rabs and Luke's elbow show.
This is really, yeah.
How about like that?
Let's go.
And don't go too far back, because that's a $1,500 smash. Okay, so welcome back, folks, to another exciting edition of Torah Talks here at the House of Rabs, the broadcasting center at the House of Rabs. I'm your host, Rabbi Rabs, and to my right is the very holy, the one and only Levi ben Abraham, a.k.a. Luke Ford. Say hello.
Hello. So the Rav says you ought to turn off that set. It is distracting and the lighting is harmful.
Well, I've got something maybe he'll like a little better. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? Oh yeah, there it is. Let's take a look at this one. Let's take a look at what it says. Look out, Levi, move out of the way so you can read it. It says, "I don't always watch Torah Talks, but when I do, I prefer being a total dick inside the chat room." So we'll leave that one up.
But it clashes with YouTube's, I don't own the rights to that photo.
You don't own the rights to that photo?
Yeah.
I made it. It's a drawing.
Yeah, but it could cost me my YouTube video.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll scratch that part out. So just scratch it out.
Yeah, it's fine.
Just edit it out. All right, I'll switch photos. I'll switch photos to something that you own. Here's one. I don't always say stupid things, but when I do, I prefer quoting Dennis Prager. Okay, well, that's what we'll leave in the background. All right, so there's that. So what's going on? What's going on, Levi?
Well, I came by, so I guess you've never been into hiking. So I came by, so you want to go for a walk, and you thought I meant around the block.
Well, tell everybody what you're talking about.
I came by Shabbos afternoon, and we talked for a few minutes.
Shabbos afternoon? That was more like Shabbos morning.
It was like 1:30.
It's like 1:30. A guy comes by, and
You're eating your breakfast.
I mean,
I was just thankful you had your pants on.
I have him in pajamas. No.
You're eating your breakfast and reading Rabbi Avigdor Miller.
I was reading. That's true. I was reading Rabbi Victor Miller because you know what? I had a show to do yesterday with Talmud 123. First of all, big shout out to the people in the chat room. We already got a big crowd. Hey Malachi, how's it going? Hey Sylvia Cool, The Boy Wondered, Lakewood Rob, and Talmud 123. I did a show yesterday with Talmud 123. Did you tune in and watch?
No.
Of course not, because if it's not involving you, you have no part of it. And we did a show together, and it was.
How long did it last? The first one lasted, what, 9 minutes before you got sick of it?
Yeah, the first one was about 9 minutes, and then I couldn't take them anymore, and I tossed them. Yesterday, we went like an hour, 9 minutes.
No, really?
Yeah, we went an hour, 9 minutes.
Is he on meds, or what's the difference?
I don't know. So the topic was about giving tzedakah. So I wanted to see if Rabbi Miller had any specific words about giving tzedakah. So I was going through his books, and Levi caught me. And he came by unexpectedly without calling first, of course, or anything like that. He just drops by, And
yeah, well, it was Shabbat. I couldn't call on Shabbat.
right. Well, you didn't say before Shabbos that you might stop by.
Oh, we talked last time and said, well, why don't you come by during
Yeah.
49 hours of
Solitary confinement.
solitary confinement.
So we had that discussion last week from last week's show that Levi said like he might come by, but he was only going to give like one knock because he didn't want to like catch me like sleeping or worse,
Exactly.
doing something very personal. So he came by. I was like sitting around. I was learning and I was drinking a coffee. So he came in and schmoozed me a little bit, and then he decides, hey, let's go on a walk. I'm getting a little antsy in here. So we jet out and we went on a hike together.
Yeah, but as soon as we came by like a synagogue that you were uncomfortable with, we had to like detour around it. Nothing wrong with that.
I just don't want to see certain people that I know in there. And I don't mind saying which synagogue that was.
Cool.
It was the Happy Minyan. And there's just a few people in there that I'm not so happy with in the Happy Minyan. So I just said, hey, I don't want to go right past that.
But you didn't want to walk much more than a mile. Like that was about your limit. What's up with that?
Well, you didn't say, hey, let's go for a 5-mile walk. You just said, hey, you want to go for a walk? Because I was middle of, I hadn't eaten yet. I was just getting up. I just had my coffee.
Well, you'd had food. There was definitely.
I had some cereal.
Yeah.
I just had my cereal. I'm having coffee. I'm reading Rabbi Miller. I kind of woke up late, and I want to get some stuff done today.
1:30 in the afternoon.
And I want to get some stuff done. And I didn't really feel like didn't have the energy for one of these big marathon schleps, to the Beverly Hilton or something, which I've done in the past, both with my nephew and...
But I'm not a pretty young girl, so I was lucky
well,
to get
my
you
nephew
out
isn't
5
either.
blocks.
My nephew's not either, but I would do it with him. But it's like, I want to have my coffee first, I want to get settled, whatever. And you like spring on that, and you're just like, hey, let's go for a walk. I was like, okay, cool. And I figured it was like, we'll walk around the block.
It was about a mile. We did about a mile.
I thought you were going to like head home, and I was just going to walk you back. Which I was like, I can do that. I'll like walk you back to your place, walk back to my place, right? But the guy like heads in the opposite direction. That was the first thing I said
I
to you.
wanted to move up in the world. I'd like to move into Beverlywood. Scout out new places, new vistas, new friends for Rabs and Levy.
So that's why I was saying, immediately said to you, hey, you're going that direction. And this guy just like kept walking and walking. The next thing you know, it's like, welcome to Arizona. And the guy's like, no, I'm thinking I'm good here. I don't need to cross the border. And he's like, oh, and why? Don't be a wussy. I've walked to New Jersey before. And I'm thinking, you know what? Have a nice hike.
And we met like a frum Orthodox woman out for a hike, and she's going to do 6 miles. She had a water bottle. She was enjoying the freedom, and she like just went.
Why didn't you walk
right
with
past
her? That would have been a perfect shidduch. I could go back home. You could go walk with this woman.
She's married.
And she was age appropriate for you.
So how did it go with Justin yesterday?
The show?
Yeah.
It went okay. I thought it was really good. But you can't find that one now. We deleted it from the archives.
Why?
Because there was certain material in it. We couldn't. I was trying to figure out how to edit out. Like Ustream has an edit feature, and I can't figure out how to work it, so I just said screw it, and we just deleted the whole thing. Because we're going to do more shows in the future, but that's not one we want to keep, because there was some things said in it that we're not really comfortable with. You don't have that luxury like in YouTube where you can like cut and edit, so whatever. So that's what's going on there.
So you read me something on Shabbos afternoon, you read me something from Rabbi Victor Miller about the virtues of solitude.
From the virtues of solitude. Do you want me to read that to you now?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can find it. Okay, you hold them up because I have to look for it. You keep the show going while I'm searching for it. Go ahead.
So coming up later, folks, we got 2 Torah portions from the book of Leviticus.
Why do we have a double portion, Levi?
Because we had, for 2 Shabbats in a row, we missed reading the regular Parsha because it was Passover. So we had to catch up with the people in Israel.
We have to catch up with them because they
didn't have an 8th day of.
Correct. So they read Shmini last week,
right,
or whatever, 2 weeks ago, and then when we were reading Shmini this week, they were reading Tazria. Mm-hmm. So now they're on Metzorah. We're going to catch up to them by reading Tazria and Metzorah together. Very good, Levi. You paid attention last week. Okay, so he says. You keep talking, lady. I gotta find this.
So Justin says you and he were discussing what your circumcision scars look like.
What?
Oh man! And now Justin's threatening violence.
What is he saying?
I will kill you. Okay, so
he's
that's
he's
what
going to kill me?
No. He's upset with the Lakewood Rough.
Well, Lakewood Rough shouldn't even be in the chat room. If he's going to be there, he should use his real name. If he's not going to use his real name, he shouldn't deceive people by calling himself Rob.
Oh, is Malachi Charles from Facebook?
Yeah, he's Charles from Facebook.
Oh. Awesome. So I began my 4th week of my job today, so I'm a paralegal. And
you're a paralegal?
Yeah, that's.
You have to go to school and training to be a paralegal.
No, you don't. You just have to do paralegal things.
Oh.
So yeah, that's what I thought too. But I googled it, and it's just like assisting an attorney and drawing out documents and other things like that. So there are no states that require paralegals to be certified.
Wow. And how did it go?
Good. I like my job. Had an Alexander client this evening before I came over here. So I teach a little Alexander technique on the side and work my job. And yeah, you really saved that one. Speedy. You know exactly what page to turn to.
Keep talking, dude.
So Justin says he's giving the guy who's teaching him driving class talk on Lashon Hara, so evil speech in Judaism. Anyway, Jesus, the rabbi is having a hard time. Even though we knew we were going to discuss the topic, we confirmed it.
I think they got rid of it since yesterday. You know what? Why don't I just say what he said? Because I don't know why. I'm not finding it. I'm not finding it today for whatever reason. It's just not there. I'm under pressure, and when you get under pressure, you can't. It's just not gonna. It just gets worse because then everything just blows up on you. Because whenever someone puts pressure on me, find it. I can't. I'm about to give up. I don't know. It was in there yesterday. I found it when you walked in. I don't know. I'm not finding it. I don't know. I can't find it. I read it to you yesterday. I can't find it now. I give up. But basically, Rav Miller says basically said like this: that solitude is a great thing. A person should always strive to spend time, as much time as possible alone, because when a person's with groups of other people, he tends to get influenced by these people. And since nobody's perfect, no matter how good a person is, when you're around them, you're going to pick up their imperfections. So, unless you're with a tzaddik, he did what's that word I want? Make a
proviso.
I don't know what that is.
An exception.
He made an exception when it comes to tzaddikim. Persons should always strive to spend their time with tzaddikim. But if they can't be with tzaddikim, then it's always preferable to be by yourself, because you don't pick up the imperfections from other people because you're going to always be influenced by the people you're with. So he said spend as much time as possible. This is how you can. First of all, you're not talking Lashon Hara to people, right? You're not using any Lashon Hara because you're not talking to anybody. You're not going to just sit there and be Mavatal Torah because you start talking about sports or other stupidities, because you're by yourself and you can use the time wisely and work on your mitos and do some introspection work.
Maybe you can define terms, because not all of our viewers are Orthodox Jews. So
Garden Fun is in the
means
room.
the righteous, and Beetle Torah means waste of time. It should be better spent studying Torah.
Right.
And working on your mitos. Mitos refer to character traits.
Right. Yeah, so those are the things you can do while you're alone. And so he says when you get people get tied down with their families and whatnot, they don't have time. They're always with other people. They got their family obligations, they got to go to shul, and they got to do whatever, and they spend very little time alone, and Rabbi Miller says you should really take advantage of the times that you have alone because you're going to really wish you had them later on.
Yeah, like a lot of people when they're about to die, they think back over their life and go, oh wow, I wish I would have spent more time alone.
No, they say, I wish I spent more time without Luke next to me. That's where you got confused. So that's basically...
So, I mean, this suits you. I mean, because you lead a pretty solitary life. So
but don't you?
Love this. Yeah, I do, but I want to move beyond it, and I don't, not that solitude, in that I, even at the most lonely of times, I'm still in shul every day for a couple of hours. So, like, this is a very extreme thing that Rabbi Miller is saying, and I don't think it's good advice for most people, and I don't think it's normative Torah, because...
You don't think it's normative Torah?
No, you think that's the normative Torah position. You should try to spend as much time on your own as possible.
It says in Pirkei Avos, l'sayed v'chochma shestika, right? That the fence around wisdom is silence. The person should always strive to be silent, because when you're silent, two things: nobody knows what you're thinking until you open up your mouth, right? So you're going to less than impress them once you open up your mouth and start talking. So you can always look smarter when you don't say anything, because people can only guess what you're thinking, and then they give you the benefit of the doubt or whatever, right? The other thing is that you can never say lashon hora when you're quiet. Right? You can't say bad things. You can't say stupidities when you're quiet. Right? So there's something to be said about remaining quiet. And the easiest way to remain quiet is don't be around other people. Spend your time wisely by yourself. Learn Torah. Bury your head in the books. You won't be saying anything to anybody.
So is it more meritorious to say your prayers on your own or with a minion?
Well, there's a gra on that. There's the letter from the Gra.
And the Gra is?
The Gra is the Vilna Gaon. He lived about
18th century.
300 years ago. And he was a big Rav, and he said it's better to daven on your own and not go to shul than to go to shul and listen to all the lashon hora that all the other people are saying in shul.
Yeah, but still the normative halakhic position is that it's much more meritorious to daven in a minyan, not to daven on your own. So Judaism is commanding you to be in a minyan 3 times a day. So solitude is certainly not the normative Jewish path.
So the Gra is not normative.
No, I didn't say that. I said the normative.
No, you said the Gra is not normative.
I did not say that.
You just implied that the Gra is not normative. You implied that Rabbi Miller, who was a Talmud of Slabeka, not normative.
He is not normative. I mean, I enjoy the heck out of him, but he's not normative. Can we just turn that thing off?
Well, the reason why it was given to us is so that we could post stuff like this in the background. We're giving the people their money worth by having it up. I'll change the picture. Right, we don't want that one. We'll have me. Okay, can we do that? We'll have me in the background this time.
Or what's the Jewish position on davening on your own versus davening in a minyan? What's preferable? What's the Torah's position?
I just told you what the Gra wrote.
Oh yeah, and so that basically sums up all of Torah's position on davening?
So
on your own versus is there,
in other words, you want to know what does the Torah say outside of the Gra?
Well, there are hundreds of things that the Torah tradition says outside of the Gra. But the normative
what do you consider
Jewish
normative?
Law position is it's more meritorious to daven in a minyan than to daven on your own.
And the Gra points out that there are reasons to say that it is less meritorious. What you need to understand, Levi, is that you're looking at this as very black and white. You're looking at it as though there's only one opinion in Torah, and if it's not the opinion that you agree with, therefore it's not normative. But when we really pull down your pants and look at what your normative is, it's not even normative. It's a combination of Dennis Prager and your Seventh-day Adventist upbringing. So what do you? I don't even understand where this conversation is going.
Well, folks, this is a good judge between Rabbi and I. On most occasions, I have no problem saying the Rabbi knows far more Torah than I do, and when it comes to a question of what does the Torah tradition say, like, listen to the rabbi more than you should listen to me. But the rabbi, like me, we are both kooks, and we're kooky in different ways. And the rabbi is kooky on the virtues of solitude in this instance, and that is not a normative Jewish position. The normative Jewish position, to quote an old famous Jewish phrase, is that life is with the people. That you go to shul, you have a family, you go to shul, daven with a minyan 3 times a day, you study Torah with other people, you live your life with your Orthodox Jewish community, and you send your kids to an Orthodox day school, and you live, close to a synagogue, your wife goes to a mikveh, you eat in kosher restaurants where you'll be with fellow Jews, and the normative Jewish position is that you're with other people. Some people are better suited to solitude, and they are better off with vast amounts of solitude. Many of the great rabbis prefer to daven on their own rather than to daven with a minyan. And so that is certainly one thread of the Jewish position. But I was going to a shiur this week where the rabbi is talking about the importance of being with other people. He said that all things being equal, the more time you spend with other people, the more dignified you will act, even if they're not Orthodox Jews. Even secular people spending time with other secular people will generally act more dignified in a higher level when they're with other people. And so Orthodox Judaism, or traditional Judaism, Torah Judaism, is profoundly wrapped around life with the community. And so as a convert to Judaism, like, getting used to being part of such a tight-knit community was one of the challenges, because traditional Judaism is generally lived by most people spending vast amount of time with other people.
So let's just get what the word normative means in Luke's vocabulary. It means the way that I perceive Judaism to be, and if you're outside that model, then you're not normative. But the real normative that Luke is looking at Judaism through is the eyes of somebody who's entered Judaism through the Reform doors. And normative to you is going to the temple, because that is the entire...
So davening in a minyan is not normative.
I didn't say it's not normative. I'm saying the definition of normative is following accepted Metzorah. If you don't consider the Gra and Rav Miller part of the Metzorah...
They're part of the Metzorah.
Right? I don't know what to do with you, because that, whatever they say, is normative. That is normative.
But you can't just take their isolated statements and ignore everything else. The halakha is that you preferably daven in a minyan, not on your own.
Then what did was the Gra wrong, what he wrote? Was the Gra wrong? Do we hold like the Gra? Do we accept him as one of our accepted Metzorah sources?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
We do accept his opinions as...
He's a great one.
Was he the Gadol Ador of his generation?
He was the Gadol Ador of his generation.
So do the words that he writes in his lifetime, are they binding?
They're not always binding over every other opinion.
Do we accept them into our Metzorah?
Yeah, they're definitely part of our tradition.
As normative part of Judaism.
They're part of Judaism.
Okay,
but
so
they don't always...
you just answer. But see, you're looking at everything black and white, Levi. You're saying, oh, well, it's got to be this way or the highway. No, you can have a normative this way and a normative that way. There is room for both in the Metzorah. That's not a problem. What you're not allowing is opinions that you don't like and you want to push away. You're saying they're not part of the normative.
Yep.
So what you're saying is, I'm Luke Ford, I am normative Judaism, whatever I believe and whatever I follow, that's the only way, and then if you follow some other things, so you're on some fringe. But I got news for you. You're not the only way. And I look at you and I say, you're on a fringe.
You're nuts. Like anyone who's been watching the show for any length of time, think about that characterization of me, as constantly being black and white. It's either my way or the highway. And think about, does that ring true to you? Am I constantly saying this is the only way and anyone who does things different from me is wrong? I mean, that's absurd.
No, you're saying it yourself. You're saying it yourself. It's in your words. You're saying that what Rabbi Miller's words are not normative. What the Gra wrote is not normative. That means that somehow these Gedolim are outside the mainstream, even though the mainstream is built around them. So, I mean, it just doesn't add up, Levi. Do you think about it? Maybe it'll make sense to you.
Yeah, I'll think about that. Maybe it'll make sense to me.
If we don't follow the Gra and he's not part of the normative, then what is the normative? I'll
tell you what the normative.
Okay.
The normative is to live your life largely with other people. If you're a Torah,
boy, who says that?
Jew.
Who says that in the Gra's generation that goes against him? Come on! I want to hear it. I don't understand how you can. You look at the Gra. The Gra was the leader of his generation, right? Our Metzorah goes through him, and yet you're saying he was outside of the mainstream. He's not normative. So then, where is the
I'm saying your presentation of him is outside the normative. If you're saying most people would do better off davening on their own rather than davening with a minyan. If one was to argue something like that, and if one was to argue you're better off spending more time alone rather than with your Torah observant community, that is not the majority view in the Torah tradition.
Tell that to the Gra.
Well, the Gra was exceptional. The Gra hardly spoke to his wife. He studied Torah 18 hours a day. That is not the type of life that most people are capable of. Like he was a great man, and he was the great one of his generation. But most people are not capable of studying Torah 18 hours a day. Many of the great rabbis did prefer to daven on their own rather than daven with a minyan because it would take less time, and they'd be able to use their time more efficiently. But you go to most rabbis of an Orthodox synagogue, go to your local Orthodox rabbi, ask him, would it be better leading my Orthodox Jewish life as much on my own as possible, or would I be better off spending a great deal of time with my fellow Orthodox Jews? Would I be better off praying on my own or praying in a minyan? Would I be better off just doing my own Torah study, or would I be better off with a Havrusa, a partner, or learning with a rabbi? Or should I just go off and do my own thing?
Lakewood Rob is so always wrong. He just said that Luke has the benefit of a broader education. Rabs was denied this. We both graduated from the same university. You obviously weren't paying attention. We discussed that. And I have a much broader education than he does, because not only do I have the same degree that he has from the same university, but in addition to that, I also attended another university. And I went to yeshiva, and he didn't, so you lose. All right. So I think we're going to hit a stalemate on this one, because you're never going to see the point. But I want you to try to do the homework here. If the Metzorah that we follow today, and the Gra is part of it, then it's a logic fallacy to say that his words are not normative. Because normative, the way that normative works is anything that falls within our accepted Metzorah, which is our Torah tradition. There can be more than one opinion inside that. And that's the thing you don't grasp.
You don't think I grasp it?
I don't think you
one halakhic position.
Inside the normative. Okay, let me ask you a question. Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay? Let me ask you a question. Real simple. We just had Passover.
Right.
Okay. We just had Passover. Is eating matzah ball soup at the Pesach Seder, is that considered normative?
I don't know.
Is it normative?
I don't have a clue.
You don't have a clue on that?
No.
Okay. Is to say I won't eat matzah ball soup at the Seder table because I keep gebrux. Is that normative?
Yeah, I've heard something about it, but I really don't know. I mean, I've heard it discussed, and I know people hold differently, but I don't really know anything about it. But yeah, I mean, there are tons of things, like, for instance, the normative Ashkenazi position is that you don't eat kitniah on Pesach.
Right.
While for Sephardim, the normative Sephardic position is that you can eat kidney.
Okay, so there you go. That's a simple one. So is it when someone says, I eat corn on Pesach, right? Is that a normative position?
No, isn't corn one of the 5 grains that are forbidden?
No. The 5 grains are spelts, rice, wheat, oats, and barley.
Okay. Yeah.
Corn and
is
rice
kitnios.
is kitnios.
Yeah.
But if someone says to you, I eat cornbread on Pesach, is that normative?
If they were Sephardi,
right. That's why I didn't
if
go
they
with
were
that
Ashkenazi,
no,
it would be really weird.
Okay, yeah. That's why I didn't use that as my example. I prefer to go with gebruks, right? Gebruks is something that Ashkenazis have, right? There is no mucker for gebruks. There's no mucker for it. It's a minhag that is just strictly minhag avosenu b'yadenu. We just do it because it's part of our tradition, but there's really no source for it. There's nothing written as a halachic source for this bizarre minhag. Okay, many Jews don't eat gebruks during Pesach, but many Jews have matzah ball soup at the Seder table. I ask you, which way is normative?
I wouldn't have a clue.
I say that both are.
Okay.
You can have more than one thing, and they're all normative. It all fits within the Daled Amos of the Metzorah. You know what a Metzorah is?
Yeah,
it's a Torah tradition. As long as there's a Torah tradition, and Gedolim have talked about it, that's normative. You expect normative to be that there's only one way, and that's what it is. And if you hear, if it's not in that one way, I don't want to hear it. And that's what you're playing tonight.
Yeah, that's really what I'm all about.
That's what you're doing tonight. It's like if it's not the way that I know it, then you just plug your ears and roll your tongue, and you don't want to hear it. But
wait, I don't want to hear it. I asked you to find the place in Rabbi Miller so you could read it aloud. I wanted this topic on Torah Talk. I hit you up on Facebook so I could get the quotes from Rabbi Miller because I wanted to discuss this.
I'll look for it again. Hold
on. So I'm curious how much of the rabbis embracing and love for this interesting position, praising the virtues of solitude as opposed to being in a community, is to justify his own choices of living a life largely isolated from synagogue, not going to any particular synagogue, davening on his own, and largely practicing Judaism on his own instead of with a community. I would go crazy doing that. Like I've always built my life around synagogue, which is why it's so painful for me when I'd get thrown out of the synagogue that I'd been going to for months or for years.
Because you're a synagogue kind of guy. Because you came here from first you grew your religion. You start off with the church, right? You grew up in Seventh-day Adventist. Everything is centered around the church. Mm-hmm. Then you got drawn in with the Reformed Judaism, which is the Jewish version of Christianity. And it's like everything is around the church and everything is like Christianized. And you look at Judaism through Christianized glasses. And everything is around the temple. Okay? So to you come from a very, very many years of thinking that religion, organized religion, is all about the church or the temple. Simple as.
So what percentage of Torah observant Jews do you think never go to synagogue?
That's something else. Never go? I don't know that anybody else never goes.
Almost never go. As often as you do.
You're mixing apples and oranges. You're taking what I said, what Rabbi Miller said, and saying that therefore you should never go to shul. I never said that, and neither did he.
No, I didn't say that either. I just asked you a question. What percentage of Torah observant Jews do you believe never go to synagogue?
I don't know.
Well,
probably very small.
Very, very, very tiny percentage.
Right. I don't know. It's not in here today. I don't know. I can't find it, man. But you already blogged it. So why was I going to look it up? You already put it on your blog.
Well, I'd like to get the exact quotes from.
I don't know what happened to it.
Rabbi Miller.
It was in here, but I read
He's always interesting. That's the thing about Rabbi Miller. He's always thought-provoking. He's challenging. He's entertaining. He's like He's like the Howard Stern of Orthodox rabbis. Like he'll shake you up. He'll come at things with a new perspective. He'll be blunt. He'll say things that aren't politically correct. He'll say things that are unpopular, and he's kind of like the John Derbyshire of political commentators. He's just he was quite controversial in his time. Like some of his critics would say, "Oh, he speaks nibble pair," which means using untruth language.
Who said that?
That was his reputation. He was not.
Who said that? Give me a name.
I'm not going to say his name, but that was his reputation.
I've never heard that before.
Well, you think Rabbi Avigdor Miller was this widely beloved and accepted by his peers?
Absolutely. He's a rabbi's rabbi. Let me explain. I used to go to Rabbi Miller's shul for hear his talks. There were people, Jews, the place was packed in his shul. There were Jews literally from every part of the spectrum. There were Ashkenaz, there were Sfarad, there were Hasidim, there were modern Orthodox, there were people who weren't even from yet. There were people from Lubavitch, from Satmar, from Ger, from Belz, from the Yeshiva Shavelt. You couldn't find a group of Jews, a legitimate, established group, that didn't have representatives every week at his shul. He was widely accepted and widely respected as one of the very few Gedolei Ador with tremendous stature who was accepted by everyone. If anyone has a negative word to say about Rabbi Avigdor Miller, they have a negative word to say about themselves. Okay? Now, I'm not going to sit here and listen to this. If somebody says Lashon Hora about Rav Avigdor Miller, I say bring it. Give me a name, name names, otherwise either put up or shut up. You've got something to say about Rabbi Miller. You claim that people said this. Give me names of people who said this. I'd like to have a talk with them. I'd like to see where did they come off saying such Lashon Hora.
So, either Rabbi Avigdor Miller was special in doing something that was unique and making a contribution, or he was just saying the same thing that everyone else was saying. I'm saying that him was special. He was unique. He was controversial. And he brought something special to what he did. And precisely because he did something different, unique, challenging, something that was not politically correct, something that was controversial, he got a lot of heat for what he did. So
he got a lot of heat from who? You can't
from other Orthodox Jews, other Orthodox rabbis.
Name.
I can't think of names.
Then don't say anything.
Of course I'll say something.
Because you're bullshitting right now, and I'm calling your bluff.
You think
I'm calling your bluff.
I'm
calling your bluff right now.
Fine.
You either give me a name of somebody who said that, or shut up.
I made my point.
Your point is full of bullshit. It's full of bullshit.
So was he special, or was he just run of the mill then?
He's a special guy.
Okay, if he was special, he was saying things that other people weren't saying.
But they weren't nivell.
But it wasn't controversial.
He may have said controversial.
He didn't make waves.
He may have said controversial things because they're things that the Torah says that people who are politically correct and people who lack the backbone to stand up and say what Torah says are afraid to say it. So Rabbi Miller never cared, and he said the truth, and he spoke what Torah really says, and that's what he separated him from other people.
Well, that's essentially what I was saying. I just said it in different words.
No, you called it nivell peh.
I said he was accused of speaking nivell peh.
And who accused him of that?
I can't name the name.
And based on what? That's Lashon Hora to even say so. To say that a gadol, that a tzaddik, spoke nivell peh, you either have to bring proof of the nivell peh, or you have to tell me who accused him of that. And we'll confront that person. I'm not going to sit here and let a gadol like him be brought down by rechilas, by bullshit allegations. Either put up or shut up.
So the Lakewood Rav asked Luke, for the benefit of others, what did this Miller fellow say that was on PC? Well, he'd say things like, if you see a one-legged Puerto Rican, that has something to say about the people of Israel. Like everything that goes on in the world
He's right.
has something to say to the Jews.
I can't find it.
And so when he'd use the example like the one-legged Puerto Rican hopping around, some people could think that was insensitive.
Let me ask you, is he right or is he wrong?
I agree 100% with Rabbi Miller.
Right. So was that considered nivul peh?
I think some people would consider that, yeah.
Because they're idiots. That's not nivul peh. That's that this shows that their own ignorance. Because there's a Gemara that says that nothing takes place, that nothing takes place in this universe unless it's to teach the Torah, to teach the lesson to the Jews. That is the intent. That's what the Gemara says. So he was just taking an example from the Gemara and applying it in today's world. That if you see anything, and it doesn't matter what it is, and he was giving an example, that's what the Gemara is talking about. He was teaching Gemara. Was he teaching it accurately?
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
So if somebody thinks that's nivul peh, then they need to go learn that Gemara. And they should stop, and they should learn two things. They should learn three things. One is they should go learn that Gemara, because they obviously don't know it. They should learn the Gemara, learn the halacha about saying Lashon Hora, especially about a gadol, right? Because they don't know what they're talking about. And third, maybe they could benefit from the words of the Gra and the words of Rabbi Miller and spend more time alone rather than saying Lashon Hora.
So I'm reproved by Lakewood Ravi writes, that's it, that's the only example. Does not that sound like, big deal to me? Well, I'm coming unprepared with something that I don't have a lot of specific examples of, but how comfortable would you be with making Rabbi Avigdor Miller's public pronouncements widely available so that non-Jews could read them too? I remember I had an Orthodox Jewish friend who I discussed Rabbi Miller with about 10 years ago, and he said, well, this particular statement or that particular statement, don't put that on your blog, because some of the things that Rabbi Miller would say publicly, though, were just for a Jewish audience. And he didn't want me putting them out there on the internet where any non-Jew could read them, because he believed that they were words best reserved solely for a Jewish audience. How comfortable would you be with the public pronouncements of Rabbi Avigdor Miller?
I 100%.
Being publicly
I
available?
totally disagree with whoever told that to you. I don't even need to know who they are. I totally disagree with it. Right? Here's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Then this is what separates Rabbi Miller and separates me, and in many ways separates you from other people.
Right.
Torah does not have to be apologized for. Torah does not need to be ashamed of itself. We, as Jews who learn Torah, need not fear what the Goyim think when we tell what the Torah says. Torah does not bend and try to fit into the mores of Goyim who are secular or whatever. We don't care. We tell what Torah is, what Judaism is about, and if somebody has a problem with that, that's their problem. That's not our problem. Right? We just say what Torah says and they can go deal with it. We do not sugarcoat nor water down the words of Torah to fit in and make people more comfortable so they'll come to our parties at Esha Torah and maybe you'll meet a girl there. We do not sugarcoat and water down Torah so that young, unsuspecting Jews won't realize what's going on and they'll come to our Kiruv group. We don't do that. Or I don't do that. Rav Avigdor Miller never did that. We say exactly what Torah says. And if that makes us unpopular, so what? If the popular approach, or as you would call the normative, if the normative approach or the popular approach is everyone, let's all wave our blue and white, Israeli flags this week for Yom Ha'atzmaut, the Israel, whatever it's called, Independence Day, and let's be good Jews and celebrate our country, the state of Israel, God's holy land, God's holy country, and everybody's going that direction. And you can either join swim downstream with all these Jews who just want to celebrate that day, or you can stand up and be on your own. B'makam she'ein enoshi mishtadel lios ish. The Mishnah says what? In a place where there's no men, try to be a mensch. Stand up and take a stand and fight the current. And say, you know what? Zionism goes against the Torah. This country was created not as a religion. There's nothing religious or Torah about this country. It went against the Torah. It goes against Judaism. And we should not celebrate that day, and certainly not by saying Hallel, and how much more so not with a bracha. We don't celebrate this day. We don't celebrate that country, and we don't call it we unless you live there. Okay? We don't celebrate it, and I don't mind standing up if that makes me the most unpopular person in the room, because I stand for Torah. Torah is anti-Zionist. Torah warns against creating that country and considers that country an eyesore. Okay? So we're not going to celebrate Independence Day this week. That goes against Judaism. Now, if 90% of the religious Jews that you know are going to celebrate that day, that doesn't make a difference. They're in the wrong. That doesn't make any difference. We don't apologize and we don't bend to be popular so that people will love us and we'll just fit in and blend, and then they can come and then they can be part of our parties and whatnot. We can bring them in, get them into the kiruv thing. And that's why I'm against 90% of the people who work in kiruv today, because they sugarcoat and water down Judaism and present it as something that it's not.
What if some of these controversial things that you say we should not be afraid to say publicly, what if they cause innocent Jews to be killed?
Oh, that's taking it to a new level.
Well, that's been a fact of life throughout history. And
okay, well, one second. No, that's
in some places today.
Okay, who exactly is going to get killed by what you post, let's say, on your blog? Who's going to get killed?
Things we don't know.
Does that concern you? Do you sleep at night wondering if the things you write lead to Jews getting killed?
The consequences of what I say and do cause me varying degrees of concern. My natural inclination is 100% along the lines of what you said.
Okay.
But I am aware of Jewish history.
Okay.
I'm aware that we're living in the freest and the best land ever for Jews right now. We have it so good here in the United States. And this has not been typical for Jews.
Sure.
And that through much of history and most of the world, Jews have had to be very careful about what they say publicly, particularly to the non-Jews, because they could get hurt, they could get murdered, there could be pogroms. And so I try to have an open mind to the argument that Jews should be careful in what they say publicly in case it could lead to Jews getting hurt. Like, my natural inclination is very forthright and outspoken, just like you. But I do think those who argue, hey, we need to be careful what we say about Judaism or the world to the non-Jews in case it infuriates them, and maybe they'll beat up Jews in like some isolated part of the world. Like, for instance, in England, there are 30 times as many Muslims as Jews. You walk around in England, in London, it's a whole different feeling being Jewish.
My girlfriend talks
Muslims,
to me about that.
Like Muslims in full regalia, where the women walk around with only their eyes, revealed. Like, it's a much scarier place to be Jewish.
Uh-huh.
And if saying certain things could get Jews murdered, tortured, killed, my saying them here in Los Angeles could get a Jew hurt or murdered or kidnapped in London or in France or in Eastern Europe or wherever in the Soviet Union, then that has to be a concern for me. Jews are only like 0.2% of the world's population, and so we have to take some cognizance of what our deeds and what our words, the effect of those on the 99.8% of humanity who aren't Jewish.
I actually don't disagree with what you said.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't. It's what's the case what Gemara calls lo shtich? It doesn't happen very often. It's in the remote. It's remote, as they say. It's so unforeseeable and such a small percentage that it could happen. I don't know what the word I want is. So
right, but it's
so
been more
remote.
common at other times. Like we've severely changed the way we would write Edom in our sacred text instead of Christianity, because we didn't want the Christians to hurt us.
But okay, but that was at a time when Christians were hurting us, right?
Right.
Right now, like you said,
but we haven't changed our sacred texts. We haven't changed our Metzorah, to Christian now. We leave it at Edom.
Of course, because we don't change text. But here's the thing on that. You made a good point. We're an American, whatnot. Now let's say we lived in Iran. Yeah. Me and you would not feel so comfortable doing the show. Let's be honest. We would not feel so comfortable doing the show. Because halfway through the show, Mullah Ahmad Amdallah is going to bust through the door. Right. And chop off Luke's head. Right. Mia he might spare, but he's definitely taking off Luke's head. Yeah. Okay, so there is a degree of that, right? Yeah. We feel comfortable because we live in America, so we don't give a shit. We put our finger up and that's it. Right? Now, things would be different if we lived in Iran. Yeah. Okay, so,
or even maybe England or France. There aren't as many outspoken Jews in England, even as a percentage. They're a whole different mentality, Jews in England than Jews
I'm hearing this a lot from Esther. Here's the thing I wanted to say about Iran. This reminds me of the position of Neturei Karta. You know who these guys are? Okay. Neturei Karta went and they went to one of these Holocaust denier conferences in Tehran, and a lot of Jews had a lot of problems with that. Even from Jews had a problem with that. Yeah. They were like, why are they going kissing Ahmadinejad? And this was, when was this? This was about 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
But the thing was, we found out after the fact, when they went there, what they were trying to do was help the 30,000 Jews who were stuck in Iran. And they were saying, hey, look, we can work together here, You got 30,000 Jews who we care about who are living in Iran, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys are all focused on, the state of Israel, which we have a common thing that we also don't like the fact that the state of Israel exists or whatnot. Maybe we can find some common ground. And, you like us, you know what I mean? We'll kiss your ass a little bit. You'll like us. And you'll do us the courtesy of making sure that our Jewish friends here are taken care of and they're not threatened. So once you look at the facts on the ground of what they did, suddenly they don't seem so bad anymore going and kissing this guy. Right? Okay, it's not the way that, everybody is not comfortable with it because they look at Ahmadinejad as another Hitler. And then, so they look at the Neturei Karta guys as they're like Neville Chamberlain, and they're going there and they're kissing this guy's ass and all. But you got to remember, there's Jews living under Hitler, right? So we went and we fought Hitler and we won, but a lot of us died, right?
And say words from Neville Chamberlain, he realized that Britain was not prepared for war. So on the one hand, it seemed like a dishonorable peace that he made with Hitler, but if he postponed World War II by a year, that enabled Britain to get ready to fight. So you can make sometimes peace that looks dishonorable. You can kiss people's backside and it appears shameful your behavior, but if it saves lives, if it enables you to fight another day, sometimes that's the best thing to do.
Right. It's what's the wise man chooses his battles.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's not, you can learn that lesson for everything. It's not just with the big wars, but when me and Levi, we only fight once in a while. Most of the time we're palling around, we're picking up chicks together, going on walks, this kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? We smoke, we take a few toots together. We shoot up together. What?
We smoke the hookah pipe.
We smoke the pipe and this and. And all these things are going on. We go to strip clubs together. We had a good time there one time. That was a lot of fun. Right, so we do a lot of things together. We only pick and choose to fight on most things. I let it go. I let it slide. Once in a while, you'll really inflame me up. Because when you pick on Rabbi Miller, that's when you're going to get me really pissed. That's one of my sore spots. Don't pick on the women I date, and don't pick on my rabbis. That will always raise my ire. You want to piss Rabs off. You want to get him flamed up in your face. Say some shit about the women he dates, or say some shit about his rabbis. You're gone. Now, if you want to trash my nephew or something like that, or you want to, I don't care, or you want to trash some people I hang out with or whatever, if I ever hang out with people, whatever, I don't care. You want to trash me personally? Go for it. I don't care. But don't say shit about my rabbis, and don't say shit about the women I'm dating. That's right. That's really when I lose it.
Okay, so a question for you from Garden Fun. Would you feel comfortable stating that 9/11 happened because God was teaching the Jews something? I'll just answer it quickly. I would never say it that way, but I would say that in everything that happens, Jews can learn something.
That's right. There's an example of this. Can I just throw this? The short answer is yes. Okay, but I want to qualify it. I would feel totally comfortable saying that 9/11 happened to teach Jews a lesson, right? And what's the lesson? We don't know. But here's the thing. An action can have more than one reason. In fact, it can have multiple levels, different reasons for why things happen, right? Like Levi just alluded to. Probably the biggest reason that 9/11 happened was for whatever reason. Osama bin Laden wanted to do his thing, and he thought, I don't even understand what he was doing, but whatever he did, right, that was probably the number one thing. But it can have another thing. So this was taught to me by one of my rebbeim when I was in Eretz Israel. And they always loved to use, for an example, the Israeli army. Okay? And he gave the example that when God does things, you have to think of him as an Israeli pilot flying an F-16 on a bomber mission. I don't know why I can't get this out of my head 30 years later. The plane finds targets in Syria or Lebanon or whatever, and its mission is to take a bomb and drop it on a PLO installation. Back then it was the PLO. Today they have Hezbollah. Right? And come back. Right? That's your main purpose. But since we've already got you out there, we'll give you a second bomb, and you can do a second mission. We're not going to send you out just for that second mission, but since you're already out there, we're going to give you another thing to do while you're out there. So you're going to have 2 missions, 1 flight. Okay? You're going to have, so everything that God does has the primary and secondary reasons why you're out there. Okay? So 9/11 had a primary reason, and it also has a secondary reason. Which is the bigger one, which is primary, which one's secondary, which one's tertiary, which one's auxiliary, which one's ancillary. I don't know, but those are big words. You have to be impressed with the fact that I was able to come up with them all, huh?
You may not be able to find the Rabbi Miller statement. But
no, I can't find that one disappeared. That one's gone. By the way.
Why don't you give me the book?
Okay. It's in the final chapter with questions to Rabbi Miller. I can't find it. I can't find it. But you know what he did say back there, which you'll find, which I just want to share?
Yeah.
Somebody asked him a question. They said, is it okay to listen to Jewish radio personalities, talk show hosts, who are not from, but they're conservative? Mm-hmm. And what do you think he answered? They're not from, so they're not giving proper Torah over, or they're not giving any Torah at all over, or they may not even touching the subject of Judaism, but they're conservative. Are you allowed to listen to them?
I don't know what he said.
He said it's still better than listening to liberals. Now, I don't know if the person was talking about Prager, because they could have also been talking about Michael Medved or...
Michael Medved's Orthodox.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's Shomer Shabbat, yeah.
Okay.
He co-founded the Pacific Jewish Center with Rabbi Daniel.
All right. And yeah. Michael Savage.
Right.
And who are the other ones? Mike Levin? Or something Levin?
Mark Levine.
Mark Levin. These are all Jewish guys who are conservative, but they're not from. Right. So we don't know which one he was talking about, but he says it's better than listening to liberals, right? So Alan Colmes is a Jew and he's on the radio, but he's a liberal, but don't listen to him. All right.
Lakewood Rove had a very good point. He said, in answer to the question from Garden Fund, would you feel comfortable saying that 9/11 happened because God was teaching the Jews something? Lakewood Ralph said God was teaching the Jews to do a better job of profiling at airports.
Yeah, but the problem is...
He was teaching Gentiles the same thing.
It's better to teach the Gentiles because the Jews have no power over that whatsoever, at least in this country. In Israel, it's all Jewish, but they don't have that problem. They do a good job already. Here, the problem is it's Americans, it's not Jews. It's Goyim, and the Goyim here don't know what they're doing.
Garden Fund asked, did 9/11 happen only for the Jews?
No, that's what we're saying. It happened with the primary and secondary and maybe tertiary, auxiliary, and ancillary reasons. There's many reasons behind why God allows events to go down the way they go down. We can always draw a lesson from every action because there's always room within God's reasonings. One of the reasons He will always use when He does something is to teach the Jews a lesson. But we don't know. That doesn't mean it's the primary reason. It may not even be the secondary reason.
So, a question for Rabbi Miller. Is there anything wrong with listening to a non-Jewish radio talk show host that has a conservative and right-wing perspective on life? Let me put it this way. It's certainly better than listening to a liberal. However, it is important to know that even a non-Jew, sterling character, does not possess an outlook on life that is in any way compatible with a proper Torah perspective. Folks, like, even if you don't like Rabbi Miller or you don't like Orthodox Jews or traditional rabbis, he's tremendously thought-provoking and entertaining. Like, there are very few rabbis who are as interesting as Rabbi Miller.
You should put that one on your blog because you're so tied up with Prager. Like, you love Prager. This would be great for you.
Well, I've listened to a lot of Rabbi Miller.
All right. No, but I'm saying you should take that quote and blog it. All right, so we did that for an hour.
Wait, did you answer the question? Did 9/11 only happen for the Jews?
I already said that. I already answered it. There's primary and secondary reasons. Talmud 123 asks. Talmud 123 asks, is it okay to visit Medinas Israel? Is it okay to go to the state of Israel? Mm-hmm. And can you move there halachically? And yeah, there's nothing wrong with going there. There's no halachic. There's nothing to say halachically you can't visit the country. I don't think you can find anyone that's ever written anything or ever said don't visit the country. You can absolutely halachically go visit it. Okay? Can you go move there? There's been Gedolim that have said it's better not to. Rabbi Victor Miller said it's better not to, and his reasons are I thought them very interesting. He says it's better not to move to Eretz Israel. And the reason is because if you're going to have kids, then you're denying your parents here in America a chance to help raise their own grandchildren. So part of Kibbud Av V'Aim, of honoring your own parents, is to allow them to be part of the upbringing of your own of their grandkids. By moving to Israel, you're denying your parents the ability to help raise their own grandkids, so therefore you're transgressing one of the biggest mitzvahs of honoring your own parents. So it's a problem of honoring your parents. Now, if your parents pick up, or if you don't have parents or whatever, then that what Rabbi Miller said doesn't apply to you. There's other Gedolim that have said other things. But halachically, you're allowed to move to Eretz Israel. You're definitely, no one is ever going to tell you you can't visit it. And I personally think every Jew should go visit it. And when I say go visit it, don't just go for a weekend or a week. I think every Jew owes it to themselves to go and explore and see all the holy sites now that we can go see them or whatever, and to go spend some time there and see if that's for them. Because then you can make your own decision afterwards. Because I believe a person cannot make a good decision without being presented all the choices. So you need to see what the state of Israel is all about. You need to go see it for yourself, and don't take somebody else's word for it. Don't build your opinions of how much you love Israel and support the Jewish state until you've actually been there. Okay? And don't take the attitude of, well, Rabbi Rab says, the place is a disgrace and it's the land of sin, until you've been there yourself, because it's better to speak from a position of first-hand knowledge. So I recommend everybody go there, and you go there for your whenever until you reach the decision to the point where you can see what it is. For me, it took about 6 months to figure it out that this is not what I thought it was going to be, And I stayed there after that for another couple of years, and it was too long, and I had to get out of there. Because after 6 months, the honeymoon was gone, and the reality set in, this is not for me. For Esther, my girlfriend, she essentially made Aliyah. And she was back in like a week.
Really?
Yeah, she
she moved to Israel.
She moved to Israel, and she came back like a week later. And she came back, and she realized this is not what she envisioned it was going to be, because people are they're disillusioned, like I was disillusioned, and I thought it was like the Holy Land, and everything there is just so holy, and everybody's so into Judaism, and you find out you landed in early 1900s Bolshevik run Eastern Europe.
So Rabbi Miller, I guess the question is, global warming something to be concerned about? Rabbi Miller says global warming is entirely a concoction of the liberals. You don't need to be concerned about it at all.
That's one of my favorite quotes. When was the last time you spent time in Israel, says Garden Fun? Well, that was 25 years ago. I haven't been there in 25 years. When I left, it was a third world country. I don't know, I've heard that it's changed, but my experience was it was a third world country with substandard health services, horrible hygiene. It was just God.
So why don't you keep looking, and I'm going to start with the Pasha.
It's gone, huh?
I really want to find it. I'm going to start with the Pasha. You just start looking.
I don't know. Yeah, I did read it to you, believe me, huh? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
So this week we have 2 Torah portions in the diaspora.
Okay.
Parsha Tazria, which is Leviticus chapter 12 to the end of chapter 13.
Okay.
And Parsha Metzorah, Leviticus 14 to 15. So, the topic of purity and impurity, which are very rough English translations of the Hebrew, but those are a couple of the major topics in these Torah portions. So most people today do not give a flying fig about matters such as purity and impurity.
It's right here.
Okay, read it.
It was on like page 2, and it's the continuation of. Is there anything wrong with listening to a non-Jewish radio?
Okay, hit it.
Okay, this is what Rabbi Miller says. Ready?
Yeah.
Woo. Okay. Okay. It says, where should we stay? He just breaks into this. As a rule, the more time one spends alone, the better off he will be. Of course, if one can spend time with tzaddikim, which are righteous people, then he will certainly be well off, as there is no greater company than a tzaddik. Otherwise, however, one should attempt to live a life of solitude, and to do so is a very great achievement. In our day and age, this idea is no longer appreciated by this guy. You already heard it yourself. But take my word for it. It's as true today as it ever was. Savor the moments that you find yourself alone, not in anyone's company, but your own. You'll find that these moments present very real opportunities for growth and character development. For experience testifies to the fact that the more time one spends in the company of others, the more likely he is to fall under their influence. You begin to act like they act and eventually think like they do as well. It is of utmost importance to give yourself a chance to grow on your own, not being weighed down by the travails and chains of your environment.
Do you have any thoughts on
I
think you haven't already said?
No, that's exactly.
I have some thoughts. Like for me, the more time I spend around Torah Jews, keep your hand in place. The more time I spend around Torah Jews, the better my behavior. In fact, the more time I spend around most people outside of the porn industry, the better my behavior. Pretty much, if I'm spending time with someone who's never made a porn movie, like it generally morally elevates me. But what about for you? Do you find like a lot of solitude morally elevates you?
Morally elevates me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I only keep company with Siddiqim. That's why I allowed you into my place. You know, the only people I ever allow in here are on very high madrega, people like you and Talmud 1D3. So I allow you in because you're going to elevate me. But otherwise, no. I keep, I try to keep on the DL. The down low, trying to avoid interaction with the.
But when we spend a lot of time alone, it's not exactly this kind of morally edifying, purposeful solitude. We're watching TV. We're watching sports.
We didn't do that on Shabbos.
No.
You asked if you could turn it on, and I said no. No, you cannot watch that.
No. But I mean, we're not engaging in this deep moral introspection and Torah study much of the time when we're spending time alone. We're spending time alone because, well, I'll just speak for myself, because of certain flaws in my character have socially isolated me from the people that I would like to be close to.
What's that?
Which flaws? Which flaws in my character have socially isolated me?
Yeah.
My narcissism. So
yeah, I know about that one.
Grandiosity, my desire to be grand and important. I often find myself, when I'm comfortable in a social situation, after a while, months or years, I'll start thinking, how can I be the leader of this group? And I start giving the leader or the leaders a hard time, trying to elevate my own status, and then I end up getting kicked out. That happens to me a lot. So that's one big flaw.
Oh, by the way, somebody wrote, while you're talking, I got something.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote to us on Facebook, but it was to you, basically.
Uh-huh.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, so what other flaws have socially isolated me? Oh, God, this is painful.
Okay, you don't need to do it.
Okay.
No, you don't need to do a whole cheshbon and nefesh. How did they... Oh, here it is, messages. This person, look at this, they wrote to you.
Oh, yeah. He emailed me too. He wants a copy of a certain movie, Life After Porn, so I didn't have a copy. Great, yeah. Great.
Do you want to handle it?
I did. I don't have a copy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, can we get back to Torah?
All right, let's go. Let's take it away. What happened to Malachi? The guy's always been through the entire show. And also Sylvia, we lost her too.
I say embarrassing things, Justin points out, kind of like him. Yeah, so I have a kind of a cruel sense of humor.
Inappropriate things.
Inappropriate and cruel. Oh, yeah, my nickname in high school was the rapist. What was your nickname?
I don't know if I had one.
So yeah, I tickled this girl a lot one time, and she didn't appreciate it. It was unsolicited, and so after that, she called me the rapist.
Oh boy!
So I just thought I'd put that out there as a way of getting more Alexander clients.
So that business is going well, and you also have a day job.
Exactly, I'm really raking it in.
You're the fat stacks.
Exactly.
All right, making
mad money.
Mad money bags.
So most people today don't give a flying fig about matters such as purity and impurity. Yet purity is what I most want in a spouse. I want someone who's not being plucked.
Yeah.
And yet will be grateful to reap all the benefits I've gained through my varied experiences with many different races and religions.
I believe that Esther sat in this chair and told you how full of shit you are for that. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was back in November when she was here the first time. And she told you how full of shit you are for expecting a woman and having this unreasonable expectation that they're virgins. And meanwhile, you have a background in pornography with your pants down. And talk about how you banged 44 women in 44 years. Right? So
in 44 different ways.
I'm sure you blogged about it. So she said it's the height of hypocrisy and stupid, and it makes you sound like an ass. Remember that? Or no, the word she used was dick. Do you remember that? Remember that used? She said you're being a dick when you have that expectation.
So people want to know what nibble peh is. Nibble peh is uncouth language or dirty words. So the S word or calling someone a dick. I'm not criticizing her, but some people would regard that kind of language as nibble peh.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, I never claimed that she's at Sodom.
Yeah, and I'm not talking
But don't
about
take
her.
shots at. Don't take.
I'm not taking any shots at her.
And if you take shots at hers, it's like going after Rabbi Miller. It's like you're going after everybody tonight.
So what is impurity? Rabbi Beryl Wine writes, impurity of heart and mind is what allows one to mock the righteous and ridicule the pious.
That's what you just did tonight. It's impurity of your heart.
You know, I used to go to Rev's Pretty Girl International.
What is it?
It was a talent agency in like a certain genre of entertainment.
Adult drama?
Yeah, and so they would provide talent.
Okay.
And like I'd just hang out at the office and like talent would come by and sign up and like they'd do, they'd take photos so that they could then send the photos around to various producers and directors in the industry. And so I'd just hang out there and try and get interviews or photos for my own blog. And there was this talent agent, Shylar, and he would run Pretty Girl International. But in the background, he'd often be watching Little House on the Prairie. And he said, because like the industry that it was in was so filthy, that was his way of getting pure. So in between like booking girls for various gigs, for various scenes of degradation, he watched Michael Landon.
Yeah, but what you didn't know is that he was using it as for material because he had like Little Whorehouse of the Prairie. It was one of his new films that came out the next year.
He didn't make fun of it. He liked it. He needed that uplift in his life.
Okay.
Now, Rabbi Wine says, we literally wallow in a sea of impurity of thought and evil behavior. And we are bombarded constantly by messages and examples of gross impurity and maliciously evil behavior. And we are alone in combating these evils, since the impurity of society ridicules any public attempt at raising the level of purity in that society. That's kind of like my position in life now. I feel like my mission. I spent like 15 years degrading society and producing impurity. Now I feel like it's my mission to raise the level of purity in this society.
And how are you doing that?
Oh, mixed results, but...
no, I mean, how are you, what's your...
I do a weekly Torah talk.
Okay.
Now, I've seen so much filthy material on the internet, and I've even made some of it in my weekend moments, and even at times I still make, not pornography, but, I make some pretty raunchy blog posts. But I was thinking maybe I should read some of the reviews on my past documentary filmmaking efforts. Maybe another night.
Okay.
So is it permitted to sing Gentile hymns in the bathroom?
Is that a question to me?
Mm-hmm.
You want my answer?
Mm-hmm. Abide with me.
Okay, don't sing.
Lord,
I don't
pass the eventide.
First of all, this is not a bathroom. I think it's sperm here. Okay, and second, your voice is terrible. Now, here's what I have to say. You want to know it? I can answer this very, very ballabuttish. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about Rabbi Miller. Rabbi Miller often talks about how certain verses in the New Testament, the Christian Bible, contradict itself and the facts on the ground as they're written in the Tanakh. So the question always was, when is he sitting down and reading the Christian Bible? And the answer always was, that's what he reads in the bathroom. Because he can't learn Torah, well, there's a halacha that says you can't learn Torah in the bathroom. You can't even think Torah thoughts in the bathroom, right? When you're sitting on the toilet, you can't be sitting there like, chazering over shots.
Right.
Right? So that's where people sometimes put like their secular books or newspapers or whatnot. Right? So Rabbi Miller would always, he doesn't want to waste a minute, so he knows he's going to be talking about stuff when he writes, and, he wants to have that information when he goes to the John the next time, he'll look it up. And he would keep his Christian Bible in there, and his Josephus was in there, and all this crap was in his bathroom. So I want to learn out from that. If you can read the Christian Bible, then these Christian songs can't be any worse than that. Right? So I would say that's a good place for them.
Yeah. There's a big rabbi in Los Angeles who was asked if you can read the Jewish Journal in the bathroom, because they have like a Torah section of the Jewish Journal. He said that's not the question. The question is, can you read the Jewish Journal of Los Angeles outside of the bathroom?
Okay, he ripped off Rav Moshe Feinstein, and the question was Jewish press.
Oh, okay.
And the question was, can you take a Jewish press into the bathroom because it has Torah commentaries in it, right? And he said that's not the Shiloh. Shiloh is, can you bring it back out of the bathroom when you leave? He ripped it. Get original material, whoever told you that. Well, I want to see what Garden Fun has to say. Many people do their best work or have their big epitomes on the toilet. What is your response to Jews who use the Tanakh as a source, saying that God supports Zionism?
We've gone over this so many times.
Okay, keep going.
Go ahead and take it now, because I'm going to go to the bathroom.
Don't think about Torah in there. Whatever
For me, it's not a problem.
Whatever you do, just don't think about Torah. Think about your porn days. No, don't do that either. Don't make a mess. What is your response to Jews who use the Tanakh as a source to God supports Zionism? It's very simple. Judaism is not a biblical religion. Judaism is not a biblical religion. If we're just going to take the Bible by itself and start picking and choosing verses that in the written Torah that seem to indicate that God is giving it to us and dismiss everything that the Talmud says, then basically what we're practicing is a Christianized form of Judaism. It's not Judaism. It's a Christianized form of Judaism. Because Judaism is not a biblical religion. We don't look to the written Torah to tell us what's right and what's wrong. We have oral Torah. And when you operate in oral Torah, you see that Zionism goes against Torah. Because Zionism goes against Judaism, because the oral Torah says that. If we're going to dismiss the oral Torah, Zionism is probably fine according to what's written. But that's not Judaism, because Judaism is not biblical. So that's your answer. Levi's coming back now. He's got to start thinking about Torah.
Thank you for being brief. I was afraid you'd go on for 15 minutes with that one.
No. There's 3 people who aren't logged into the chat room who are watching this right now, and I would just say to you guys, please log in. Let us see who you are. We lost Malachi along the way, and we lost Sylvia. I'm going to have to ask them later what happened. Okay, bring it back to where we were. This is a long show, by the way.
Rabbi Beryl Wyan writes, the traditional translation of Sorat, which is a major concept word in these 2 Torah portions that we have on the Sabbath, as leprosy is undoubtedly misleading and inaccurate. Rabbis of the Talmud treated this disease as mainly a spiritual one, albeit one reflected in actual physical symptoms. So if you'd ask a skin doctor, what do you call that, as a dermatologist, I gave him the symptoms of the Sorat, it would not correspond with any disease that we have today. Now, slander, narrowness of vision, jealousy of others, and bad character traits were assigned by the rabbis as being some of the potential causes of the onset of this disease. So, according to the rabbis of the Talmud, Sorat is a product of the sin of slander and abusive speech.
And nivel pet.
And nivel pet.
And talking Lashon Hora
about the great rabbis.
About great rabbis of our generation and ones from 1700s.
Exactly. So life and death are in the hands of speech and the tongue. See, in a society where everyone demands the right to know everything about everyone at any time.
I need to know, Levi. Where do you daven?
It is difficult. Who gave you Smika?
Who gave you...
Meaning Smika means who made you a rabbi.
Who gave me a pillow?
Yeah. It is difficult. Who gave you a header to masturbate?
Certainly wasn't anyone from Breslov.
It is difficult to promote the ideas of privacy, correct speech, avoidance of gossip, and unnecessary curiosity about others. Like, sometimes it's so lonely for me, writing my blog, and I'm trying to promote the ideas of the values of privacy, discretion.
That's right. That's why you have a private blog.
Avoidance of gossip and unnecessary curiosity about others. I kind of devote my life to these ideas.
Sanctities.
And it just feels so lonely in this fallen world, like where people are just filled with I deserve the right to know anything about anyone at any time.
Right.
Now, legend has it that the famed Ari, Rabbi Isaac Luria, 16th century Sfat, was able to tell a person what one's sins and spiritual defects were simply by looking at the person's face. Now, my father had a very similar quality. My father taught religion at Avondale College and at Pacific Union College. He taught college, and he could look at his students, he said, and he could detect which ones were masturbating. And I think I've inherited that ability from my father, because I too can like look at young men and I can tell which ones have been masturbating, because the masturbators...
Why young? What, older men don't masturbate?
Not so much. Not as obsessively. And the masturbator has this sallow countenance and they have very shifty eyes. So and now Justin in the chat room is going to say a few words about the virtues of Shomer Bris.
Let's see if you're right. Oh no, we lost the audience entirely.
Okay, let's keep moving. It's boring to have downtime.
Okay.
Now, you can try to improve yourself all you want, but whenever you're confronted with powerful stimuli, your habitual responses to stimuli will in all likelihood take over, and your social position will remain unchanged. Like all of my life, since I've been reading books about age 8 or 9, I've like been into self-help. Since about 8 or 9, I've been reading a lot of books.
Oh, 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm always reading books, and I'm always trying to improve myself, and I'm always trying to change my position in society, upward. I always want to orient upward to the more prestigious and high-status segment of society. And it's done no good. Because people can still, see me, and they can talk to me. They immediately know that I belong with either the least popular of the popular crowd or the most popular of the unpopular crowd. So no matter how many books on self-improvement I read and try to practice, I can convert to Orthodox Judaism. I can be Hustler Magazine's Asshole of the Month for the December issue 1999. I can be on 60 Minutes. I can bang 44 women.
In 44 years.
In 44 different ways. I can go out with porn stars. I can be on the cover of LA Weekly. It doesn't change my social status, my social position. People can still... get where I'm at, because I still have these habitual responses to stimuli. People can just tell. I can move. That's what I moved a lot as a kid. My family moved, and I was always shocked that we'd move somewhere, and then this was before the internet, and people would immediately pick up that I was a loser. Well, maybe not immediately. I'd have a few weeks, where I was this popular guy because I had an accent. I was just new to the States. The first few weeks of school, I was kind of a curiosity, and I had a chance with this really hot chick in 6th grade. But then within a few weeks, people quickly figured out I was a loser. Then when I went back to Australia a few years later after high school, I now had a bit of an American accent, and I'd been in America for 7 years. And I thought, maybe, I'll have something special. They still figured out right quick that I was a loser. And then I moved from Northern California to Southern California to go to UCLA, and I thought, I'm in a new town, in a new position, maybe they won't figure out I'm a loser. And they still figured it out. Then I converted to Judaism, they still figured it out. I lashed on to Dennis Prager into his crowd, and I thought, maybe they won't figure out I'm a loser because I'm a Dennis Prager devotee, and I love Dennis, and maybe they won't figure out I'm a loser. But they still quickly figured out I was a loser. And I thought, I'll go to Young Israel Century City. I'll go to Daf Yomi every day. I'll go to Daf Yomi. I made one friend there, and I thought, who was prestigious. And I thought, wow, I'm friends with someone who's prestigious. I'm going to Daf Yomi every day, and I'm not saying anything stupid. Maybe they won't figure out I'm a loser, but they quickly figured out I was a loser. So I thought, okay, I'll go to Beth Jacob. Maybe they won't figure out I'm a loser. Went to Beth Jacob, they figured out I was a loser within 3 or 4 months, kicked me out. Okay, I'll go to Chabad Beis Bezalel. Maybe they won't figure out I'm a loser.
Because they never kick anybody out of Chabad.
Right. So I was there for maybe 2 or 3 months, and boom, they kicked me out. They figured out I was a loser. Thought, okay, I'll go to B'nai David. B'nai David, open door policy. Maybe they won't figure out I was a loser. And they gave me every opportunity to be a decent person. But eventually, I got kicked out of there. And so, wherever I've gone, people have always figured out who I am. I could move, to Kazakhstan. My sister could be, the number 3 hooker in all of Kazakhstan.
Way to use that joke for the 80 billionth time.
And people would still figure out I'm a loser. I could be on Good Morning America, next week, and people still figure out...
There's something to what you said, and I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
When we walk together on Shabbos, okay, when I normally walk around in the area, people don't pay any attention to me at all, right? They just, they go, hi, hey, good Shabbos, or whatever, and during the week they'll go, hello, hey. I got a lot of stares when I was walking with you, more than I ever get. I got a stare down many places, and it wasn't like a happy stare down where they're like, "Hey guys, it's good to see you both," or something. Hey, it was like, "Why are you with that loser?"
Yeah, yeah. Like I go around on Shabbos and I say good Shabbos to people, and they won't say anything back. You know how like disheartening that is? Like, it's like I'll say good Shabbos, they won't smile, they won't say anything. They'll just.
But where do they know you from?
They just know I'm a loser, and like what's worse is I know I'm a loser. So no matter where I go and no matter what I do, I know I'm a loser. Like I can like pretend, I can like psych myself up, I can say the right words, I can wear the right clothes, I can even like I can have a beautiful date, I can be on the cover of a magazine or a newspaper, I can be on TV. But wherever I go, I still know I'm a loser, and that like it shows. Like I give off this vibe that says I'm a loser. Like no matter where I go, like. All these different social situations, I'm sitting there isolated, and like my face just across my forehead, it just reads, I'm a loser. I remember I was at Limud LA, and I met these women, and we were hanging out, and, they found me entertaining and all that. And then she said, there was just this time where I just felt so sorry for you. She just met me. And but she saw me interacting or trying to interact with the crowd, and she just felt so sorry for me. Like I struck her as that pathetic. That is some seriously negative self-talk. But do you have the sense when people can pick up on what you're thinking?
Talmud 123 says you're a winner in his eyes as long as you remain shomer brick.
Wow.
Don't touch your pee-pee.
Well, that'll last about
10 seconds.
No, that'll last another 90 minutes.
You asked me a question. What?
Does any of this resonate?
With me? Do I ever feel like a loser?
No, do you have a sense of people picking up your own negative self-talk?
I don't see a lot of people. No, but if you ask, who spends more time thinking that they're a loser, me or you? I think it's pretty strong competition. Mm-hmm. Because although I don't necessarily walk around projecting it onto the whole world that they think I'm a loser, right?
Right.
I spend tremendous amount of time saying I'm a loser, right? And I've got plenty of proof, right? I can make a really solid argument. Why.
Can strangers pick it up? For me,
there are no strangers.
Definitely pick it up with me. But there have to be times when you interact with strangers, even as isolated as you are. There are still times when you interact with strangers. Do you sense them picking it up?
No, and you want to know what's something interesting? Mm-hmm. Is it tends to go the opposite direction. I'm going to be very honest. It always surprises me how popular I am when people don't know me or whatever, and on Facebook, you see how popular I am, right? I walk into rooms, people just start smiling, they laugh, and they think I'm funny, and they love having me around and all this bullshit, right? And I never understand it because, are they just idiots? Because I'm a fucking loser, right? And they don't pick up on it. So I do a better job of not projecting that than you do. And maybe it's because maybe it's not there, and you just think it's there. You just think everyone thinks that.
Well, like when you went to your cousin's wedding.
Nephew.
Right. Surely you met some strangers there. And, they didn't pick up you're a loser.
No. In fact, I told you that chick was all over me, right? That, I have to, prove to people that you're not, I'm not the guy that you think I am, right?
Right. You have to prove to people that you're a loser, while I have to prove to people that I'm not.
I have to prove, right? I have to prove. Well, at least it's. I had a conversation with a shrink about this because I go to this clinic. Mm-hmm. I go to this clinic because I still do. I'm a guinea pig for clinical trials for a drug. And whenever I go see the clinic shrink, he always informs me because I'm like, I don't understand why people like me because I'm so fucked up.
Right.
I'm so screwed up in the head, I'm a hermit, and I'm scared to death. I have social anxiety. I don't want to be around people. I have all these phobias. I'm nervous. I don't want to be around people and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, why don't people... And I said, here's another thing. I got all this tremendous OCD. Mm-hmm. I've got all this OCD shit going on, right? Where it's like, it's got to be like my way and everything. And people like my family members come flying over here. They love visiting and all this shit, right? Like, like my nephews come and blah, blah, blah. Right. And they bring their women and all this stuff, right? And I was saying to him, to the shrink afterwards, I was like, I don't get why these people have such little vacation time and they burn it going to visit Uncle Rabs. I just don't fucking get it. Because, like, you come here, and I can be like a total asshole to guests because I don't do well with guests. I'm kind of a loner person, right?
Right.
And I don't, and I'm like, I don't know how to interact with human beings.
Right.
And I was like, telling the shrink, what the fuck is wrong with my family? Why would they want to come visit? I don't understand why people like me. And he was like, oh, are you kidding me? You're funny as hell. I'd love to spend time with you and all this stuff. I'm like, they must think you're hilarious. And that's like the vibe that I give off, is that I'm funny. But that's not the vibe that's inside my brain. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's something that can help you. When you around people, just give off the vibe that you're funny.
Reb Taka says if you can't keep a straight face when you look at women, probably a masturbator.
That's deeply insightful.
Justin, he always goes on and on about masturbation. Like, that is definitely the ticket to social success. Like, wherever you go, talk about masturbation. I remember, like, I was new in LA and someone said, oh, you should talk to so-and-so who's in this community. Says you guys have a lot in common. And so I went for a walk with this guy and, I started talking about masturbation. And, I thought we had a good walk, good talk, and said goodbye. And, like, I called him a week later and asked him out to lunch. And he, like, hung up on me. And he's... Like, I called him back and he said, the things you were talking about were just so inappropriate. I just can't have anything to do with you.
You know what Talmud123 said during the show yesterday? He said, actually, during the show yesterday, Learning with Justin, he actually said this on the air. Are you ready? What are you laughing about? You don't even know what's coming. He said his life goal is to have the same life as Levi or Rabs. I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck, right? Can you believe this guy? He said, I want to be, 45, 50 years old, never
married,
never
socially
married,
isolated.
Socially isolated, living by yourself,
poor,
can't afford,
but doing your own Torah talk show.
And just hooking up with another loser your same age.
And getting taken out to eat by teenage boys. And to find his own soulmate to do his own Torah talks when he gets drunk.
I just read Henry's bit. Yeah, I know. It's like, why would anyone... you know what? This falls right out of what that shrink was talking about.
Yeah.
What looks so attractive about us that we live in this very painful life? Is there anything good about it? No, it all sucks, right? Yeah. Like, you're by yourself. Yeah. Like all you've got is, a TV... and your left hand. I mean, that's about all you've got for friends, right? I mean, like, you came over here. Does it look exciting when I'm on my Shabbos? Like, here I am just eating breakfast at 2 in the afternoon or whatever. It's like, I got nothing. I got nowhere to go. I got nothing going on. And it's like, I'm the biggest, loser. Loser. I'm the total loser, right? I'm the total loser. We basically have come out and said this is like Loserville with Rabs and Levi.
Base loser.
Why do people want to be this? Why do they want to emulate us? Why do they think we're so much fun to be around? Why don't they sense it? You know what I mean? I bet that's what he said.
Talmud123 says, I haven't used pornography since July, and Reb Taka says it's still using you.
All right.
Now, Talmud says, Levi, if you became Shomer Habrit, stop masturbating, people will start respecting you. I went well over a year without masturbating. like 1990, 91, and it didn't really make any difference in the way.
Okay, I got you totally beat. You ready?
Yeah.
I didn't.
How long did you go?
I went 3 years.
I went like 15 months.
I went 3 years because I refused. I refused to touch that or have a hard-on or have a wet dream or anything while I was in Eretz Yisrael. I said,
You were able to go without having a wet dream, because I still had wet dreams.
Oh, man, I focused. I always slept on my side, just like the Shulchan Aruch says, sleep on your side. Don't eat any spicy foods before you go to bed. And I would think pure thoughts. I always like Chazer Gemara, try to go over in my head what I learned that day and stuff. And just stay focused. And the worst scenario, if I start thinking about women or something, I would shift it to basketball. So keep it away from women.
Yeah, thinking about big black guys.
I was in yeshiva all day. I only saw guys. When I'd walk into streets in, Tel Aviv or Yerushalayim to go do business or whatever, I always hid my eyes so I wouldn't see women walking the other way. And I just would not have any thoughts about women so that I would not have a wet dream at night. And I went the full 2 years I was there, I did not have a hard-on. I was such a high madrega. I went a total of 3 years because if you add all the extra yeshiva time in America onto it, I went 3 years without a single time. So that's a great accomplishment for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Now, I could probably do it again because you just go on Zoloft or Prozac and it just kills it. You know about this?
Yeah.
Just go on Prozac for 5 years. You won't do much.
Oh, like I met this very pretty girl. Very pretty girl. Like I was reading some of her blog posts and I sent her a message, I really like your stuff. And she emailed back, thank you. And then she said, oh, whoa, you're a writer too. And then I said, yeah. And I said, why don't we meet for coffee? So we met for coffee. And she said, let me buy you lunch. So I bought her lunch. And I said, let's go for a walk on the beach. So we went for a walk on the beach. And I held her hand and I kissed her. And we met out on the rocks. And we went out a few weeks. And
it sounds like a song from the 50s.
And we went to Noah Schachman, who's the editor of Wired magazine, was throwing a birthday party in Hollywood, so we went to that, and then we came back to my hovel, and for the first time I took off all the clothes, and like we're doing the ultimate deed, and I said, hey, why don't you get on top? So she got on top. I lost it. I wasn't able to fulfill the mitzvah.
The hose pop.
And it was like shocking, and she said, I've never had that happen to me before. This is like a young, very attractive woman, and she'd never before had a guy, fail on her like that. So somehow this relates, I forget how. But
Talmud 1, 2, 3
Oh yeah,
says,
yeah, because I was on various,
because of medications. Right. Talmud 1, 2, 3 writes, be right back, I'm going to the shower, because he's probably going to go jerk off.
Hey!
Now, I just want to say, he says here that it's a very big sin to masturbate, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we can say that that's true. Because first of all, not only do I have a heter to do it, so I'm doing it not be'isser, you need to understand Talmud 1, 2, 3. Justin, it's not a big sin at all for me to do it. I have a heter to do it. Not only do I have a heter to do it, I was told to do it by a major Rav. Mm-hmm. So you need to stop saying that. I don't know if you have a heter for it.
Yeah, like I remember I was going out with this girl. She was tall, blonde, she was attractive, and she was a Baal Tshuva. Like she used to work in the sex industry, and now she was Baal Tshuva. And so we went to dinner, and she talked about her plans in traditional Jewish life and how she always ran everything she did by the rabbis.
Okay.
And she asked me, so do you always run everything that you do by the rabbis? I said, no. So she's married now.
She was probably not your besheret.
I never did get married.
Okay. Let's go back to the Torah. Let's finish this up. It's getting late. I don't want it to go over 2 hours.
Okay, so in the second season of Boardwalk Empire, spoiler alert, so if you don't want to find out what happened, stop listening. So this mother and this son get drunk and they go home and they have sex. And the whole time they're locked in the clinch, the son's on top and the mother's telling the son, this isn't wrong. She kept saying, this isn't wrong, this isn't wrong, this isn't wrong. Book of Leviticus, however, would strongly disagree.
Is that in this week's parsha?
Well, it's in the book of Leviticus. It's in the book that we're in.
Oh, okay.
And so a girl I used to date, she knew a brother and sister at yeshiva who used to bang each other. And the whole yeshiva knew about it.
What do you mean the whole yeshiva knew about it?
The whole yeshiva knew. It was like a modern Orthodox co-ed yeshiva. And so
it was a co-ed yeshiva, and a brother and sister were there.
I'm not sure if it was a co-ed yeshiva, but it was that modern Orthodox environment. So it's not like a yeshiva, but it was like a Jewish day school. And yeah, there was a brother and sister, and everyone knew that they were banging each other. And I was thinking, what would that do to your Shidduchim prospects? Your prospects of getting
that's the part you're worried about? That's the
if
part
everyone knows
that's the part you're worried about?
that you used to bang your sister. What would that do to your Shidduchim prospects? Well, like everyone, I'm not saying the rabbis know, the rabbis didn't know, but all the kids know that these siblings were banging each other.
I can't wrap my head around that one, but
it's pretty creepy, isn't it?
I've heard worse. Do you know this for a fact? I mean, it sounds like terrible Lashon Hora and Rechilas. I mean, is it you know this for a fact?
I believe my ex-girlfriend. But no, I didn't see the brother and sister actually have sex.
Could they be like half-brother, step-brother, sister?
No, they were brother-sister.
Because I think it's quite common that when you have step-brother and sister living in the same house, sometimes things happen.
One of the big pornographers told me that he used to have sex with his half-sisters. So they had a
half-sister?
Yeah, they had a father in common and different mothers.
Oh, that's a little bit...
But he didn't want me to put it on my blog.
Right, but step-brother and sister in the same house is a recipe for znus. Yeah. That's a really bad situation. But there's not much you can do with it.
Okay, who should we blame for the declining birth rate of Jews? Say the primary blame is for Jews who don't observe Judaism. Those who do observe Judaism, generally speaking, most of them marry early and have many kids. Those who want lots of spare time to study poetry and the Alexander technique, such people tend not to marry.
Since you're doing the Alexander, I guess I'm the guy who's studying the poetry.
No, thank you, Larry. I study poetry as well.
Oh, okay.
Now, compounding the problem is the high number of abortions undertaken by Jewish women every year. Okay.
You didn't give me a chance to answer. You answered it by saying that what's the question? What's the exact question? Flip back to the exact question that you asked.
Who should we blame for the declining birth rate of Jews?
Time out. Where do you get that the birth rate of Jews is going down? Where do you even get that statistic? The numbers from the Jewish survey or whatever.
The Jewish population survey.
The Jewish population survey is that Frummies
are having a lot of kids.
A ton of kids.
Non-Frummies are having few kids.
Right. Oh, so you want to say that as a whole the numbers go down because there are more non-Frummies than Frummies.
Right.
So, right. Yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens. We're doing a purging. The Frummies are on the rise, and the non-Frummies
get flushed down the toilet of history.
Are going to be gone.
They don't reproduce. Yeah.
They don't reproduce. Okay, go ahead.
So, there's a high number of abortions undertaken by secular Jewish women every year. A number of these abortions, in the tens of thousands. And the great sage Chaim Amalek made the point that secular Jewish women too often use their vaginas as toys, while Palestinian women use their vaginas as cannons, popping out 10 kids apiece. Now, one Jewish girlfriend of mine wouldn't tell me whether or not she'd had an abortion. Another Jewish girlfriend of mine told me that if I got her pregnant, she'd just get rid of it. And I confess that at the time that made me happy, because then I could fluke her all I wanted without worrying about fathering a kid. So I was still young in my Jewish journey, and I was a little more unorthodox. And another Jewish girlfriend told me that while she had never had an abortion, every woman she knew had had an abortion. She told me this mind-blowing sentence: it's just something that every woman goes through. And then this Asian woman I knew who was not Jewish told me that she threw a party after her abortion. Now that's cold.
Wow. Cold. But I just want to say that, that you asked who you blame, right? I don't know that anyone's blamed, but I don't know there's anything wrong. See, this is the great fallacy that's out there. There's this belief that's very prevalent amongst frum Jews and amongst Zionistic Jews who aren't even frum, but they share the same belief that's really unfounded in anywhere in Torah, that for some reason Jews need to multiply all the time. We must, and it's about numbers, and we just got to get more and more Jews. We need more Jews than the Arabs and all this, and that's nonsense. Judaism doesn't believe in quantity, it believes in quality. It's better to create one Jew, one healthy Jew, one Torah Jew, one quality Jew with good mitos, than it is to spit out 15 Jews and let them run amok. And have them all grow up with neglect issues and stuff like that. It's not about numbers. It's not a numbers game. It's about quality, not quantity. So the idea that who do we blame, I said there's no one to blame. There's nothing to blame. There's nothing wrong with people deciding they don't want kids. There's nothing wrong with that. I commend them. I commend more people for not wanting kids because maybe they'd be better parents. Maybe if people who don't want to have kids shouldn't have them, they shouldn't be pressured to have them. Go ahead.
Rabbi Beryl Wine says, having children, how many, when, is really a very personal decision.
He's right.
People from the outside have no right to interfere in other people's personal decisions regarding so intimate a subject.
110% correct. I absolutely agree. When someone asks, how many kids do you have? Soon by you. A couple just got engaged. When are you having your first kid?
Now, here's something that Rabbi Beryl Wine wrote, which blew me away. And I thought, wow, this is an amazing point. Now, I've quoted him a lot, but most of the time when I'm reading him and even quoting him, I'm not thinking, wow, that's such an amazing insight. I'm just like, huh. But here is something that I thought was amazing. So give me 4 sentences. The laws of plagues, purity and impurity, are purely chukim, laws that defy our limited rational capabilities to understand. That didn't blow me away. But this is perhaps the very message that the Torah wishes us to learn and internalize. And this is what blows me away, this insight. Much of life is not rational and does not fit into our accustomed schedules and plans. And even the most hardened secularist and or rationalist must admit that much of life is inexplicable. And I say, you'll find this particularly true if you ever try to have a relationship with a woman, as I have tried and failed to pull off on countless occasions.
Why? Because you want to say they're not rational?
It will seem that way to you.
Yeah.
To me, it seemed that way to me as a man. I'm not saying they're not rational.
Okay.
I'm just saying that was the struggle I had.
I understand that, but the woman is going to say the same thing. Because in her world, the way her thinking, men are not rational.
Yeah.
Right? It's because they have a different logic base than we do.
Yeah.
They're playing with a different deck of cards. We're playing poker. They're playing spades. And we don't have any idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Like, neither side has a fucking clue about what the other side is thinking. We don't think like they do. And we always do the opposite of what they expect from us. And we always pay dearly for that. What am I talking about? Okay, next thing.
So I thought this is a great insight here. Weird things happen to all of us. There are forces in the world, dreams, inspirations, as well as strangers that suddenly appear that are present in our lives and are real to us as though we have no idea how or why they influence us. It is the unseen and the intangible that truly carries us through life and its vicissitudes. And that is why the Torah devotes so much space and teachings to such a seemingly esoteric subject as purity.
That's a big word, vicissitudes.
Vicissitudes.
I can't even say it. Where'd you pull that one out of? That's a Scrabble
word.
I
had a very broad education.
Because you studied broads.
Okay, so we're wrapping up the show, folks.
Wait. Let's see what.
So ask your questions now, or forever hold your peace. Wow, Justin says because of Torah talks, he stopped using pornography. There's something we said on the show, and I won't say what it is because it reflects poorly on me. That just woke me up. So wow, we might have done some good with our.
How in the world did our show lead to somebody not taking it upon themselves that they're not looking at porn anymore? That's
so okay. Reb Taco asked, "Look, how on earth did you get kicked out of Chabad?" Okay, this was one Chabad synagogue, and I'll tell you how. Because I was invited to this Memorial Day barbecue, so I went to the barbecue, and
okay, you keep it going. I'm going to the restroom.
And so it was like a couple of families, and there was this 16, 17-year-old girl there. And I just started asking her questions, which I thought was perfectly normal, but it must have appeared immodest and as though I was hitting on her. So her father said, who is this guy? Why would he be trying to make it with my teenage underage daughter? Let me investigate him. And then investigated me, found out that I was famous for writing on the porn industry, that hadn't completed my Orthodox conversion, and so because I wasn't halakhically Jewish in their eyes, then it's this guy, get away. So Chabad is a very welcoming place, but it's a welcoming place for people who are Jewish, who are halakhically Jewish. It's not necessarily a welcoming place for non-Jews who want to convert to Judaism. So now, to the best of my knowledge, I can step foot into any synagogue in Pico Robertson or Los Angeles or the world, and I'm not going to have a problem. I had a halakhic conversion. I had an Orthodox Beit Din, a Jewish law court, certificate, and my days of shul expulsions, I believe, are behind me. And right now I feel comfortable setting foot in any Orthodox synagogue in Los Angeles. But and I'm also a lot more discreet in what I say. I don't hit on underage teenage girls.
Yeah, can I just butt in for a second? Mm-hmm. I've known you for 2 years, and I've heard, why you got kicked out before, because you weren't a Jew. Mm-hmm. And then they didn't want to have somebody who was in the porn industry who wasn't a Jew, and you had no business being there, right? Mm-hmm. But I never heard that you were a perv hitting on, jail bait.
Well, I didn't think I was hitting on her. It was just people sitting around. I just asked you, where do you get to school?
Was that also the part? Now it's all starting to make a pattern. Because Esha Torah, wasn't there a woman?
Yeah, I was totally inappropriate to several women at Esha Torah, and I would hit on women during Kiddush, the rabbi's making Kiddush, and I'd be hitting on women. And there was this one Friday night dinner. This is horrible. I kind of got went into the kitchen. There was this woman there, and I just started touching her, without her permission. At a Friday night dinner, and she broke into tears. So it was really horrible. I was horribly aggressive, inappropriate. You're
just a total loser.
Yeah, just a total loser. Yeah. I wonder.
I told Levi. Boy, we already hit the 2-hour mark. I told Levi over Shabbos, we were walking together, and I said, the first time that I met you. Mm-hmm. That was I was set up that Levi's going to interview me. And I don't know this guy from Adams, right? I didn't even know his name was Levi. His name was Luke Ford, right? And I didn't know this guy from Adams, and I was told, look at his wiki. So I found your wiki, and I'm reading it, and I'm freaking out. I'm this guy's a known sex offender. It's I was what? He's some pornography guy. And he lives alone, and I'm thinking, yeah, and he's probably got a whole studio downstairs. It's have you seen the movie Girl with the
Dragon Tattoo?
And I'm picturing he's got a cage downstairs, and he keeps his
his bitches
in cages, and he feeds them, and then and he films them, and he does snuff movies and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, if I were a female, I would not go to this guy's place. There's no way. Seriously, there's no way I would go to your place if I were female. I would say, let's meet at, Nagila or something. We'll do it there in public.
My parents' home.
Right. So, I would do it in public, and I would probably bring somebody with me, you know, like a guy who's like 6'5" and like tattoos and shit, right? And I'm like a guy, and I'm going to his place. I'm going. Oh, I'm just praying he's not a homo. And I like walk in, and he's like, oh, his place is in the back. It's not even in the front door. It's like it's in the back. You know, it's like there's like a trap door that goes down in the basement, and like, you know. And I'm like, oh my God. So, you know, there's that.
So I got kicked out of Young Israel Century City in June of 2001. So I started davening at Beth Jacob. And Rabbi Stephen Weil was in charge of Beth Jacob, and he wanted to give me a chance. But then this woman who I touched, you know, inappropriately against her will, without her permission, totally traumatized her and made her cry, I guess. You know, Friday night Shabbat dinner, I came to Rabbi Weil and said, you know, you should not have this guy in your shul. This is what he did to me. And so when he heard those stories from women about how I'd like, you know, been really aggressive and like hitting on women at Kiddush, and those stories are true. This was mainly 1994, 95. I kind of grew up and out of it. I was also on medication at the time that tended to diminish my already low levels of inhibition. I was on Nardil, N-A-R-D-I-L. Some people become shoplifters when they go on Nardil. So I'm not saying that removes responsibility for my ugly behavior. It doesn't remove responsibility at all. It just kind of helps you understand what was going on. When I went off that medication in 1999, by then I started to build up, you know, a few more boundaries, and I wasn't. But in my first like 18 months in LA, I was pretty vulgar and aggressive and rude and crude, hitting on chicks and sleeping with a lot of women, and it was pretty ugly at times. And yeah, I really did like touch some women without permission, and you know, made them cry, and like hitting on women, you know, at Kiddush, and just like saying things that would totally make you cringe, or would make me cringe if I was to see them or hear them today.
Okay.
But aside from that, I was a wonderful guy. And let that be, and we should be zachar. Like, how do rabbis finish their sermons? And we should, you know, to merit. What's the word?
We should be zeicha.
We should be zeicha to follow in the footsteps of Levi ben Abraham, who's provided such an example to us of how a righteous man, you know, conducts himself in synagogue when Kiddush is being read, around a Shabbat table, you know, in the kitchen when he's alone with a woman on the Shabbat. We should be zachar to zocher. We should be zocher to follow.
Zoicha. There's no resh.
We should be zoche. We should be zoche to follow in Levi's footsteps, and let him be an inspiration for how all the Jewish young men who are listening to this, that here is an example for you of how to properly conduct yourself. And all of us, the Jewish people as a whole, can take inspiration from what this Gadol Yisrael, this light of the exile, this Reish Gelula, this
Galusa,
Reish Galusa, this you know, Gaon, this Talmudic giant, this moral leader. We should all be zocher to follow in his footsteps and to emulate this path of righteousness that he has blazed for us, not just in person, but online, on YouTube, on his blogs, on Facebook. And we have such a privilege that this righteous man is in our community. We should embrace him. We should try to get him married. We should get him high-paying work. We should send him clients for his Alexander technique. We should invite him to our homes for Shabbat and holiday meals. We should embrace him and bring him close, because this is a living, breathing example of what a Torah Jew looks like. Ladies and gentlemen, Levi ben Abraham, we should be zocher to...
Zocher.
Zocher.
Now you're getting me pissed, yeah?
To walk in his footsteps, to continue along that trail that he's blazed so courageously, against all odds, against like synagogue expulsions and rabbis kicking him out and people saying Lashon Hara about him, and yet he stayed true to Torah principles, to a Torah approach to life, and we should be Zocher.
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 Shabbos Yidden. Anyone wants a bracha very quickly because we're winding up the show now. So just if you want a bracha right now, this is the time, this is the place, and then hit my PayPal.
Wait, let me bring up the picture. Prepare for the final line.
Okay, folks.
No, not yet. Give me a chance. Give me a chance to get this. Come on, SD card. SD card.
Okay, I can't. This is just screwing
Wait,
up.
give me a minute.
No.
Give me a damn minute. There we go. This guy. Hang on. Okay.
Okay, folks. Kiddies. So important. The kiddies out there, stay in yeshiva and stay off the crack. And we should all be zocher.
All right. Good show.